There are parts of you that were never meant to stay hidden. What you call fear or lack of money is often the shadow asking to be seen. When the shadow is ignored, it controls. When it is understood, it transforms. A dialogue with your unconscious. You want more money, but you feel guilty for wanting it, as if desiring prosperity makes you greedy, superficial, bad. So you hide your ambition, pretend you don't care, sabotage opportunities, not because you don't want to grow, but because you were humiliated for wanting, and you learned that good people don't desire more. But that's not truth. It's just the wound of humiliation controlling your financial life. Listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you see every time you've hidden your ambition, every time you've pretended not to care about money, every time you've felt that sick shame when someone discovered you actually want to prosper. You are not shallow. You are not greedy. You are not morally inferior. You are protecting yourself from humiliation, from the judgment you experienced when you dared to want more. And until you see the humiliation wound running your financial life, you will keep hiding your desires, sabotaging your growth, staying small because small feels safe. This is episode 3 of the emotional wounds that control your money. We've explored rejection that makes you undercharge and abandonment that makes you hoard. Today we go into the wound that doesn't just limit what you charge or what you save. It makes you ashamed of wanting prosperity at all. Makes you hide ambition like it's something dirty. Makes you sabotage opportunities because being seen as someone who wants more feels more dangerous than staying poor. Carl Jung would tell you this is the shadow at work. The part of you that desires success but has learned that desire itself is shameful. And that shadow will keep you trapped in false humility until you finally see it operating. Here's what makes this devastating. The humiliation wound doesn't feel like a wound. It feels like integrity, like being different from those greedy people, like having values. The voice that says money doesn't matter, I'm not materialistic, I just want to help people, that voice sounds noble, like you're above the shallow pursuit of wealth. But it's not nobility, it's shame. Shame about wanting more. Shame about ambition. Shame that was installed when someone humiliated you for daring to desire prosperity. And now you police your own desires to avoid ever feeling that humiliation again. Most people think hiding ambition is about being humble or spiritual. But Jung understood something deeper. Hiding ambition is often unconscious protection from humiliation. A way of preventing the judgment and shame that came when you once revealed you wanted more. By parents who mocked you for having dreams bigger than theirs. By peers who excluded you for trying to rise above the group. By religion or culture that taught you wanting prosperity means you're selfish. And once that humiliation is internalized, the unconscious becomes the enforcer, making sure you never reveal ambition. Making sure you never want too much, because wanting led to shame, and the unconscious will do anything to prevent that shame from happening again. Let me show you what this looks like. His name was Daniel Oliveira, 38 years old, university professor, brilliant researcher. He had opportunities to consult, to write books, to build a business that could triple his income, but he never pursued them. Not because he wasn't capable, because every time he considered it, he felt sick shame. Like wanting to make more money meant he was becoming one of those people. Greedy, superficial, selling out. So he stayed in his modest professor role, and told himself and others that he wasn't materialistic, that money didn't matter to him, that he was happy with enough. But it was a lie, not a conscious lie. An unconscious protection. Daniel did want more. He wanted financial freedom. He wanted to travel. He wanted to help his aging parents. He wanted options. But he had learned at 12 years old that wanting those things made him a target for humiliation. and his unconscious had been protecting him from that humiliation for 26 years by making him hide, minimize, and sabotage every ambition he had. When he came to work with me, Daniel was stuck. A colleague had just launched a successful consulting business, making 5 times what Daniel made. And Daniel felt 2 things simultaneously: intense envy and intense shame about the envy. Why am I jealous? I don't even care about money. What's wrong with me? But underneath both the envy and the shame was something else. Grief. Grief for the life he actually wanted but had convinced himself he didn't. I asked him the question that unlocks everything. When did you first feel ashamed of wanting more? Daniel started with the surface answers. I don't know. I've just never been materialistic. I care about ideas, not money. But I kept pushing. Tell me about a time when you wanted something and someone made you feel bad for wanting it. And slowly the memory surfaced. The moment that had been shaping his financial life for 26 years. Daniel was 12, top of his class. He won a regional academic competition. The prize was $500 and recognition at a school assembly. He was ecstatic. This was the most money he'd ever had. He told his family at dinner, barely able to contain his excitement. His uncle, who'd been drinking, looked at him with contempt and said, "Look at the little capitalist here, already thinking he's better than us, already counting his money like some greedy businessman." The whole table went silent. Then his aunt laughed. Then his cousins. Then his mother, trying to diffuse tension, said, "Daniel, don't be like those people who only care about money." That moment shattered something. Daniel learned in one dinner that showing excitement about money, about achievement, about wanting more, made you a target, made you greedy, made you the kind of person the family mocked. And the lesson sank deep. If you want to belong, if you want to be safe, if you want to be good, you hide ambition. You minimize success. You pretend money doesn't matter. Because people who want more get humiliated. For the next 26 years, Daniel lived by that lesson. Every opportunity to make more money triggered the memory of that dinner. The uncle's contempt. The family's laughter. The certainty that wanting prosperity made him morally inferior. So his unconscious protected him. It whispered, "Don't pursue that consulting opportunity, you'll become one of those greedy people. Don't write that book for money, you'll lose your integrity. Don't want more, wanting more is what bad people do." This is how the humiliation wound works. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't say, "I'm keeping you poor to protect you from shame." It disguises itself as values, as integrity, as being above materialism. And you follow it because you want to be a good person. You don't realize that good person is just the mask you wear to avoid the humiliation you experienced when you once revealed your actual desires. Daniel's pattern was consistent. Every time an opportunity arose to increase his income, he would find a reason to decline. The consulting gig? I don't have time. Teaching is my real passion. The book deal? I don't want to commercialize my research. The business idea? I'm not interested in being an entrepreneur. Each refusal sounded noble, like he was choosing purpose over profit. But underneath it was fear. Fear that pursuing those opportunities would expose him as greedy, would trigger the humiliation, would prove his uncle right. The colleague's success broke the pattern. Because Daniel couldn't deny the envy, couldn't pretend he didn't care, couldn't maintain the fiction that money didn't matter to him. And that's when he came to me, confused, ashamed of feeling envy, questioning everything he'd told himself about not being materialistic. And underneath it all, terrified. Terrified that if he admitted he wanted more, he'd be humiliated again. We started with the memory, that dinner at 12, and I asked him to look at it as an adult, not as a 12-year-old. What do you see now? He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, I see a drunk uncle who felt inferior and tried to cut down a kid's success to feel better about himself. I see a family that was scared of anyone rising above their economic level because it would mean they were being left behind. I see them projecting their own shame about money onto me. But it wasn't about me. It was about them. That recognition changed everything. The humiliation Daniel had carried for 26 years wasn't about his character. It was about his uncle's insecurity, his family's fear, their discomfort with someone wanting more than they had. And he had internalized their shame as if it were truth, as if wanting prosperity actually made him greedy. But it didn't. It made him human. It made him someone who wanted options, freedom, security. And there was nothing wrong with that. But knowing intellectually that the humiliation was unjust didn't immediately heal it. Because the wound had created a complex. Jung's term for an autonomous pattern that runs outside conscious control. Daniel's humiliation complex scanned every situation for potential judgment. Every opportunity to make money triggered. If you do this, people will think you're greedy. If you want this, you'll be humiliated like you were at 12. And the complex would activate the defense. Hide your ambition. Minimize your desires. Stay small. Stay safe. Healing required Daniel to do something terrifying. To want openly. To pursue an opportunity knowing people might judge him. To risk the humiliation. The first step was small. He agreed to take on one consulting project. Nothing huge. Just enough to test whether wanting more money would actually trigger the devastation his unconscious predicted. And something remarkable happened. Nothing. No humiliation. No judgment. The client was happy. He made money. And the world didn't end. But the humiliation wound didn't disappear. It evolved. When he told his family about the consulting work, his uncle made a snide comment. Here comes the big-shot entrepreneur. And Daniel felt the old shame activate, the impulse to apologize, to minimize, to prove he wasn't greedy. But this time he didn't. He let the comment land. Didn't defend. Didn't explain. Just acknowledged it and moved on. And his uncle, getting no reaction, dropped it. And Daniel realized, the humiliation only has power if I believe it. If I agree that wanting more makes me bad. But I don't believe that anymore. Over the next year, Daniel gradually stopped hiding his ambition. Started the consulting business. Wrote the book. Made 4 times his professor's salary. And the humiliation wound kept trying to activate. Every success triggered. Now people will see you as greedy. Now you'll be judged. Now you'll be excluded from the group of good, humble people. But Daniel learned to recognize the voice. To see it as the 12-year-old trying to protect him from his uncle's contempt. And to choose differently. To want more. To pursue more. To have more. Without shame. But the transformation wasn't just about making money. It was about reclaiming desire itself. Because the humiliation wound doesn't just make you hide financial ambition. It makes you hide all ambition, all desire for more. More love, more success, more joy, more anything. Because the wound taught you that wanting more makes you bad. And you've been policing your desires to stay good. But good isn't the same as safe. And safe isn't the same as whole. Now let me take you deeper into the psychology of humiliation. Jung believed that the shadow contains everything we've repressed because it's unacceptable to our conscious identity. For Daniel, the shadow contained his desire for wealth, success, recognition. All the things he'd been taught were greedy, so he repressed them, built an identity as someone above materialism, someone who cared about ideas, not money. But the desires didn't disappear. They just operated from shadow, creating envy when others succeeded, creating resentment toward people with money, creating a subtle superiority toward anyone who openly pursued wealth. The humiliation wound creates a false dichotomy. Either you're a good person who doesn't care about money, or you're a greedy person who's morally inferior. There's no middle ground, no space for healthy ambition, no room for wanting prosperity without being shallow. So you choose good, you hide ambition, you pretend money doesn't matter, and you judge anyone who admits it does, because judging them proves you're different, proves you're not one of those people. But the judgment is just projection. It's your own repressed desire for wealth that you can't accept, so you condemn it in others. Jung also understood that humiliation often comes from the collective, from the group's need to keep members at the same level. When someone in the group starts to rise, wants more, achieves more, the group often humiliates them back into place. Not out of malice, out of fear. Fear that if you rise, you'll leave. Fear that your success proves their failure. Fear that they'll be abandoned or judged for not rising too. So they mock your ambition, call you greedy, make you feel ashamed of wanting more. And if you internalize that shame, you stop rising. You stay at the group's level, and everyone feels safe again. Daniel's family operated on this dynamic. His uncle's contempt wasn't about Daniel being greedy. It was about the uncle feeling threatened by a 12-year-old's success. If Daniel could achieve and want more, what did that say about the uncle who hadn't? The humiliation was a defense. A way to cut Daniel down before his rising exposed the uncle's stagnation. And it worked. For 26 years, Daniel stayed small. Not because he was incapable of more, because he was protecting his family from the discomfort of his growth. Healing required Daniel to betray that unspoken agreement, to choose his growth over his family's comfort, to want more even when it triggered their judgment. And that's the hardest part of healing the humiliation wound, because the people who humiliated you often can't handle you healing. Your growth threatens their equilibrium. Your ambition exposes their resignation. Your prosperity challenges their poverty. And they may try to humiliate you again, to pull you back, to prove you were greedy all along. But you're not responsible for managing other people's discomfort with your success. You're not required to stay small so others feel big. You're allowed to want more, to pursue more, to have more, even if it triggers their judgment. Even if they call you greedy, even if they exclude you from the group of good, humble people. Because those people aren't actually humble. They're just scared. Scared of wanting. Scared of failing. Scared of being exposed as desiring the very things they condemn. So how do you heal the humiliation wound? Let me give you 3 practices. First, identify your humiliation origin story. When did you first feel ashamed of wanting more? Who humiliated you? What did they say? What did you learn about desire, ambition, prosperity? For Daniel, it was his uncle at 12. For you, it might be different. Maybe a parent who mocked your dreams. Maybe peers who excluded you for trying. Maybe a religious community that equated poverty with virtue. Whatever it is, name it. Make it conscious. See that the shame wasn't about you. It was about them. Second, distinguish between healthy ambition and actual greed. Greed is wanting at the expense of others. Wanting more than you need while others have less than they need. Wanting to dominate, to win, to prove superiority. Healthy ambition is wanting to grow, to contribute, to have options, to build security. There's nothing wrong with wanting financial freedom. Nothing wrong with desiring prosperity. Nothing wrong with pursuing opportunities that align with your values and serve others. The humiliation wound conflates the two. Makes you think any desire for more is greed. But it's not. Separate them. Reclaim healthy ambition. Third, practice wanting openly. Start small. Tell one person about a financial goal you've been hiding. Pursue one opportunity you've been avoiding because it felt too ambitious. Want one thing without apologizing for wanting it. And notice what happens. Notice if the humiliation you fear actually comes. Notice if people judge you or if that's just the wound's prediction. Notice if you can tolerate some judgment without collapsing. Because you can. The humiliation wound makes you think judgment will destroy you. But it won't. It's just uncomfortable. And discomfort isn't danger. The humiliation wound is not your fault. You didn't create the shame that was installed when you dared to want more. It was projected onto you by people who couldn't handle their own desires, their own failures, their own fears. But maintaining that shame, allowing it to run your financial life unconsciously, hiding your ambition to avoid judgment you already experienced, that's something you can change. And changing it starts with seeing the wound clearly. If this resonated, if you recognize the pattern of hiding ambition in your own life, if you felt that sick shame when someone discovered you actually want to prosper, know you're not alone. Millions carry this wound, hiding their desires, pretending they don't care about money, staying small because small feels safe. But safe isn't the same as free, and you deserve to want more without shame. Tell me in the comments what you were taught about wanting more. When were you first humiliated for having ambition? What message did you internalize about desire and prosperity? Your honesty might help someone else see that the shame stopping them from pursuing their goals isn't truth. It's just an old, unjust humiliation that can finally be released. This is episode 3 of the emotional wounds that control your money. We've explored rejection that makes you undercharge, abandonment that makes you hoard, and now humiliation that makes you hide ambition. These wounds run deep, but they can heal. You just have to see them first. Next week, we'll explore the betrayal wound, why you can't trust anyone with your money. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Until next time, remember this. Wanting more doesn't make you greedy. Hiding your ambition doesn't make you humble. You're allowed to desire prosperity without shame.
If this resonated with you, subscribe to the Shadow Dialogue and hit that like button. Your transformation starts with one click. See you in the next video.